Hello and welcome to the first episode of season 2 of Man Cave Movies. I'm your host, DeGarian Andrews. This is my man cave, these are my movies, and this is my lovely wife, Danielle Andrews. Let's give her a round of applause. Welcome to the Man Cave, Mrs. Andrews.
Thank you for having me.
I know that your people have been trying to set this up for quite some time. I'm so glad you took a couple of minutes out of your real estate mogul schedule to grace us with your presence. So thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for coming back and staying with me all of season 1 and coming back for more Man Cave and more movies this season. I'm really excited to start this season off with the Academy Award winning film Sinners. It won 4 Academy Awards in March, including Best Actor, Best Original Screenplay, Best Original Score, and Best Cinematography. I think it is director Ryan Coogler's magnum opus. I think it's the best film that he has done thus far, and I'm excited to chat about it with my wife. What are your thoughts on this movie?
I loved Sinners. So when I first saw the trailer, I really didn't know what it was going to be about, but Michael B. Jordan is in it, and so it just seemed like definitely something that you had to go see. So I didn't quite know what to expect. Kind of looked like a scary movie, thriller, maybe a mix of both or whatnot, but either way, it looked like it was going to be interesting. So the movie was very captivating. I think there wasn't a single moment where I wasn't at the kind of edge of my seat trying to figure out what was going to happen next.
Are you normally a horror movie fan?
Not so much horror. I do like more suspense and thriller, but not so much horror. I actually was kind of unsure from the name Sinners if it might have involved like spirits. I didn't know what, but I was willing to take the journey. But
so,
I didn't know.
Not to cut you off, but before we met, her claim to fame with film, because she wasn't really a film person, was movies like Hot Tub Time Machine. And now that it's probably a great movie. I myself have never seen it, but whenever we discuss movies, she would always go to Hot Tub Time Machine, and I'm like, okay, we really need to broaden your horizons when it comes to film. So she has come leaps and bounds from those days, and now her repertoire when it comes to classic film or just good film in general has, progressed, I would say. So we are going to dive into everything Sinners. When we come back, don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Man Cave Movies. I'm your host, DeGarian Andrews. This is my Man Cave. These are my movies, and as I said earlier, my special guest is my better half, my wife, Danielle Andrews, and we are here discussing all things Sinners. So I want to start off, as I mentioned earlier, the film won 4 Academy Awards, and one of those Academy Awards was for Michael B. Jordan for Best Actor. Let's clap it up for him. I think this was an amazing and well-deserved win. I have not been happier for an Oscar winner since the night Halle Berry and Denzel Washington won back in 2002. When Michael B. Jordan won, it felt like I had won. And I think that Michael was deserving of this award. He did a phenomenal job in the movie playing not 1, not 2, but really 3 characters, because he played the twins, Smoke and Stack, and then he played the vampire when he was bitten. So he had to do triple the work as opposed to the other nominees. And it wasn't just, makeup to make him look different or to aid his performance. He didn't have prosthetics, didn't do any of those. He had both twins had their own tics and their own quirks, and they had different gaits and different temperaments and personalities. So I think it was well deserved. What about you?
I completely agree. He made Smoke and Stack literally feel like they were played by 2 different people. They each had distinct character, mannerisms, even their accents were a little different. You could clearly tell them apart, which just, it seemed rare. So for one person to do that and learn the lines of two characters and be able to master each character was great.
And I think that not only were like the fans of Sinners and black people, the majority of black people were rooting for Michael B. Jordan, not just because he was black, but because we felt that he was deserving. And we know throughout the history of the Academy Awards, not many African American or black performers have actually taken home the award. So whenever we whenever we're nominated, it's like Issa Rae said, you're really rooting for everyone black because you don't know if they will be in that position again, if they'll ever be nominated again, because as it stands, most people don't get nominated for an Academy Award more than one time. So it's doubly harder for an African American performer to get that second nomination unless you're Denzel Washington or Octavia Spencer or Viola Davis, or Angela Bassett has 2 nominations as well. So we were really excited about that, and I think everyone in the room was excited because he got a standing ovation. And throughout the season, most people had been saying that Timothy Chalamet from Marty Supreme would win, and I saw Marty Supreme. It was a good movie, great performance, but I think Michael B. Jordan totally deserved it. Now, do you think he deserved it because he did really well, or was part of you saying you wanted him to win because he's your celebrity crush?
All of the above. So when you left Sinners, it was one of those movies where you knew it was going to clean house award season. He deserved the win. Now, of course, definitely easy on the eyes helps. I mean, he's probably one of the most handsome winners until you win your award. However, but he put in an amazing amount of work, and then as they were going on their press run and different things, before the movie came out, before award season, it was just it was such a feel good movie. In addition to all
the horror movie was a feel good movie.
It was. This sounds so strange. It wasn't feel good in terms of the warmth and fuzzy, but it felt good at the end because it was something so well done. You knew black cast and directed, and just all of the things that were behind it. It just felt like, ooh, we did that. That just left you with a great feeling.
Okay, I agree. We are going to continue our conversation about Sinners when we return. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Man Cave Movies. You already know I'm your host, DeGarian Andrews, and I have a special guest with me today, my wife, Danielle Andrews, and we are discussing all things Sinners. So we were discussing Michael B. Jordan and his Oscar win before the break. Now I want to dive into the actual film, and I'll start off by saying, because of the genre, it is technically a horror film, but I think it's so much more than a horror film, and Ryan Coogler just used that as a backdrop for the film. I guess the question I want to pose to you and to the viewers is, do you think the vampires were the real monsters of the film?
No. So to me, I felt like the vampires brought out things that tried to be buried in the individuals. And I don't know what's worse, what you bury deep down inside or what you try to cover up and portray and kind of pretend to be. So, I mean, arguably, I think to me it's more scary putting on a mask and hiding behind what kind of truly down there. So I think, of course, the vampires were metaphoric, but I don't think that they were truly the villain.
I agree. I don't think they were truly the villains either, but I will say that I think just the South and America at that time really posed as the actual villain of the movie, because you are in the Jim Crow segregated South. Yeah. Blacks have been relegated to being sharecroppers, small business owners, and I do mean small business owners. There wasn't much opportunity in the South. Racism was the backdrop of this film as well. You even have the Klansmen being mentioned in this film, and I think that our people, our ancestors, our great-grandparents, our grandparents would look at the atrocities of things that happened in the South back in those times as the real monsters of the film as well. At least, I'm going to say this and it may sound crazy, but at least if you were bitten by one of the vampires in the film, you were guaranteed like eternal life. I mean, you couldn't die unless someone drove a stake through your heart. But the atrocities of the South at that time, which is more serious in nature, there were lynchings and people being torn away from their families and being burned out of their homes and having to flock and migrate north to find better opportunities. So I'd say the economic oppression, the racial segregation, the relegation of our people to subservient jobs and subservient roles probably played the biggest monsters and the biggest villains in the film. Would you agree?
I'd agree. The film, of course, starts out where Smoke and Stack, they're buying real estate, which is very rare for black people, black men in Jim Crow era South. So that's, first of all, how it starts. You start off really proud and impressed, like, wow, but we know that something's coming back to that.
Right.
And we know that was just a little too good to be true. So to see, of course, that they will not didn't want us to have anything, and of course, 24 hours later, right, trying to come back and take it from us and set up these traps. The film starts out with laying that foundation and setting the scene that way.
Which speaks to another point that black Americans, African Americans, and people of color, the reality that to find success or escape the harsh realities of the South, we often had to leave to find that success, and then to come back and realize that you are faced with or have to face the same monsters and the same atrocities that you left to get away from. So that's another dynamic that I thought was probably harsher than the vampires in the film.
Oh, definitely.
More on Sinners when we return. Stay with us. Welcome back to Man Cave Movies. DeGary and Andrews, my wife Danielle Andrews, and we are discussing all things Sinners. Another point that about the film that I'd like to dive into and discuss is this image of black women. And they say behind every great man there is a great woman. And to add to that, black women often, more often than not, carry the weight of the world, the weight of the universe on their shoulders. And in my last viewing of the film, because I've seen it several times, it's one of my favorite movies now. In my last viewing of the film, I saw something that I had not seen in all my previous viewings, and that was the fact that Perline, played by Jamie Lawson, actually sacrificed herself for Sammy, because the vampire was about to bite him. She jumped in front and she actually got bit by the vampire. Spoiler alert for those of you who have not seen it. Sorry. So Perline actually got bit by the vampire, which led me to the notion that really the black women were the heroes and the anchors of this film, because even Annie found out that they were vampires, and she equipped them with the garlic, told them what they need to do to kill them. So she was smart in that regard. There again, another black woman saving the day, coming to the aid of her black man. And I'd like you to touch on that, but I also want to ask, and I know you're just one black woman, so she's not speaking for every black woman. She is every woman, but she's not every black woman, so she's speaking from her point of view. Do you think, and I don't want to call that a trope, because black women are strong and they're beautiful, and they're not monolithic, so I just want to say again, she's only speaking, giving her opinion. Do you think that regard of black women coming in, carrying the weight of the world, saving the day, do you think that is something that is attributed to black women as something endearing, or do you think the pressure and the weight of that is exhausting?
I think, especially from the male perspective that I think the film really kind of is told from or through the lens, it definitely is endearing. I think that I do find that sentiment endearing because it holds true. And so I do think, though, it can be exhausting in a sense because it's like you solve one problem just in time for the next, so it can be exhausting in that sense. But in terms of the film, I think it is endearing, and I also think it is more innate. I think Perline would do it again to save Sammy, and again, or anyone else, right? It just be natural. You just kind of jump into Superwoman mode. You see a child, you see someone to save, and those instincts, those lessons that we were taught just come right into play. So I think it is more endearing than anything.
Okay. All right. I agree with that. But, because society now, and you have the younger, I don't know what generation they are, generation A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I don't know what they are considered, but women now are more independent. Hey, I'm looking out for me. If I don't have a man, I'm gonna spend that, and then I'm gonna spend some more. So I just didn't know if it would be considered, carrying the weight of the world or exhausting. I also want to talk about another woman in the film, Miss Chow, who. What were your feelings on her?
Miss Chow. Okay, so I think it's always good to have an ally. And I think representative in the movement of the struggle and advancement as you look at discrimination and coming into things like integration in the civil rights movement, right? The work was aided by allies. So they are able to tap into just resources and skills that are strategically blocked for us. So I did like Miss Chow. I think she was, again, representative of the ally perspective, and she was helpful when needed.
Okay, it's so funny you say she was helpful when needed. Do you think she was helpful when she invited the vampires in? Now, they only had to last until morning.
Yeah.
They only had to last until morning. Now, one could say she did it because of a mother's love.
Yep.
She didn't want her daughter to be murdered. Which in turn, she was the first one to go when the vampires came in. And then her husband was already dead, so now your daughter's homeless. And homeless and parentless. So who wins? Does the daughter win? Or did the vampires win? Because if this is my establishment, I'm like, she can't tell you to come into my club. So you can go out there with them, but what did you think about that as a mother? Did you think, oh, well, that was the motherly thing to do, she was looking out for her child, or, oh, that was the crazy thing to do because they probably were going to kill her child anyway when they killed her? So what is your take on that?
Well, no good deed goes unpunished once again. I think she was thinking she could befriend them and save her child by being warm and inviting them in. I think maybe if she realized they were truly vampires and there was not going to be anything that could happen, I think she would have not allowed them cross the threshold. But just always, that's an interesting piece. Essentially, she invited the danger in. To me, that represents more of kind of like in life, sometimes we think we can save people, change circumstances and situations, and yet bringing them in cause more damage than letting them stay on their own on the outside. So, yeah.
Right. It don't bring anyone into my establishment, my home, my car, my friend circle, any of that without my permission. Especially if they're vampires trying to kill us. Don't invite them in. Right. Just wait until today. If you want to be with your daughter, you risk going out there and getting home to your daughter. And then the daughter was rude. They told her bye when they were going to the club. She didn't even open her mouth. So I don't, it's debatable. We'll be right back with final thoughts after these messages. And we are back. Thank you for staying with us as we discuss this cinematic masterpiece that is Sinners. Final thoughts. I know there have been some comparison to the movie From Dusk to Dawn, and I just want to say the only thing, in my opinion, that you can compare is that they are both films about vampires. From Dusk to Dawn does not touch on race relations in America at a certain point in time. It does not touch on familial ties and the ties that bind us, things that make us different, things that make us unique. It does not touch on the experience or the plight of a group of disenfranchised people or marginalized people. From Dusk to Dawn is a popcorn vampire flick, which is really good, by the way. I own it, and I love From Dusk to Dawn, but it's a popcorn movie. Sinners is so much more than a vampire movie. Sinners is so much more than a popcorn film, which is why that is reflected in it being the most nominated film in Oscar history, because there's more than what meets the eye with Sinners. And you may have to be of a certain, how can I say this? You may have had to experience some things. I don't know if you've ever experienced being other. And you don't have to be black to be a other. You can be I was the only black person in a lot of my theater classes at Florida State. So I was a other. You can be the only woman in a male-dominated workforce. You can be the only white person in a predominantly African American school. So if you've ever been othered, maybe you will understand this film more than people who have been privileged and born with a silver spoon in their mouths. And I'm not just talking about one particular race when I say that, because being privileged and being born into money has no certain specific racial makeup. So maybe that's why most people connected it to From Dusk to Dawn and just wrote it off as a regular vampire movie or a regular horror film. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I haven't seen From Dusk to Dawn, but one thing
But she's seen Hot Tub Time.
one thing I think I want to say is, first, if you have not seen Sinners, absolutely you need to watch that tomorrow, ASAP. But if you have seen it, go back and watch it more than one time, because it is so layered in the things that it covers. For those of us who have been a part of the minority in some space in our life, and we can resonate with what that feels to be marginalized and be disenfranchised, that there's a lot that you can connect and take from it. The movie's primary plot and a lot of the main action taking place at night, which as African Americans we know, we were pretty much raised, it may be a little different now for the younger kids.
In certain spaces you can be, there's certain things called sundown towns.
Sundown towns. That you got to be in before the street lights come on and things. So the time frame of the movie, not just the setting geographically, but the time setting at taking place mainly at night, is also representative of, that was very dangerous for African Americans, especially in the South. And so there's so many themes and things to take away from it. Look at the Native American lens and presence of the Native American characters in the story and connect those dots. I think there's a lot of discussion you can have amongst groups and think and reflect on circumstances in your life as someone who has been a part of a minority group throughout your life.
I agree, and I think that's very eloquently and well stated. Before we sign off, my wife is here, so let's make it a family affair as we bring up our son, Mr. Omri Andrews. Omri, do you have anything to say about the movie?
It was very good.
It was very good.
Very good and very fantastic.
Okay, can you send us out? Can you say, this is Man Cave Movies signing off?
This is Man Cave Movies signing off.
Tell them to join us next episode.
And join us next episode.
Thank you so much for staying with Man Cave Movies. This is going to be an awesome season. This is the Andrews family signing off.